What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you are having a good Wednesday today. Had some things happen yesterday. It was kind of interesting. A few announcements here and there, some games, some dates, and some sales figures. That's a lot of fun to go over. So we're going to take a look at how far along the Nintendo Switch is and kind of how it compares to the other companies. Let's get started. Now, if you missed it, Nintendo announced on Twitter, on the Nintendo of America account, that they had crossed the 10 million unit threshold. And that's sold through to customers, so it's not necessarily shipped. Sometimes we'll see figures from their investors meetings, their briefings. That generally has to do with shipped numbers. How many can they account for that have gone to the stores, not how many have left the stores with the consumers or the customers that go home and play them. There is a big difference. Generally, the shipped number is 1 to 2 million units higher than the sold through number because, of course, there are always units in transit to stores, different places in the world. So Nintendo tells us 10 million have sold through to consumers, which tells me we're probably somewhere in the 11 to 12 million that have actually shipped out. Here we are now knowing that 10 million have sold in the first 9 months that this system has been on the market, which is pretty good. Now, how does it compare to the other systems? Well, the PlayStation 4 sold in its first entire year 14.4 million units, and the Xbox is a little harder to gauge, mostly because Microsoft just stopped reporting numbers when they realized the PlayStation was pretty much running away with it going into the second year. After the first year, I think it was pretty clear the Xbox One had fallen behind pretty far. The last number that we had really officially heard from them was that they had shipped 10 million units in their first year, and that's shipped. They didn't even tell us how many it actually sold through. So now we can kind of look at the Switch and say, okay, it seems to be matching the PlayStation 4's first year. Now, the PlayStation 4 has entered what we have called, and other analysts have called, the harvest years, where the system has become cheap enough, the user base is large enough, and they have enough online paid subscribers that they can start pretty much reaping the benefits of producing these systems. Remember, most companies put out systems and generally lose money on them. Nintendo seems to be the outlier when it comes to that. They usually make money on the first day of the system, which is not normal at all. With the Microsoft and Sony generally lose money. Sony lost a ton of money on the PS3 when that came out, and that really set them back a bit. They're very lucky the PS4 did as well as it did, or Sony might actually be in some trouble financially right now. So very fortunate there. Now, the PS4 is doing well currently. In its last calendar year, the PS4 has sold roughly 20 million units. That's a lot. But again, in its first year, when you go through things like production issues and trying to get everything sorted out, and the system costs more, so it goes off the shelf slower, 14.4 million. So the Switch at 10 million has an honest chance of selling better than the PS4 did in its first year. And that is a large testament to a company that came away with a system that sold roughly 13 million in 4 years. So it's pretty clear the Xbox isn't even near the Switch in terms of its first year. I actually think the Switch will pass the Xbox One in its first 3 years. I think you'll see that because the Switch will more than likely continue to pick up momentum depending, and this we're going to get to in a minute, depending on what Nintendo could do in its second year. But I think it's pretty clear a lot of consumers are at least interested in the Switch. People who weren't interested in the Wii U are definitely interested in the Switch. They are pulling an audience they did not have really this past generation. They definitely had a weird audience during the Wii. I mean, honestly, people's grandparents were playing that thing. So this might be the audience that really hasn't been around since the GameCube, maybe? I mean, seriously, it's been that long. So this could be a different type of audience for Nintendo, and I'm glad that they are investing in games like we've seen with like Xenoblade, for example. Kind of games that aren't heavy mainstream, but they have that niche audience, because I think things like Mario and Zelda can work perfectly with these AA games. Things like Bayonetta, I consider that a AA game. Now, I talked about the PS4 having 14.4 million. That includes a holiday. The Switch has not had a holiday because, remember, the PS4 launched in November, had that full December, and then leading up to it in November, it had stopped right there, 14.4 million, sold an additional for 4.5 million or so in that December. So again, you're going to see this chart kind of skew upwards as we get into December. And Nintendo did also make mention they are now going to start shipping more than ever when it comes to the Switch. So I do think their December is going to be higher than normal. And I think by the time we get to the end of its first fiscal year, I could see an honest 15 to 16 million Switch units at least shipped. I don't know if sold through, but definitely shipped to stores. So overall, the Switch is healthy. Even the other two systems have really picked it up. I mean, the PS4 and the Xbox One were losing MPDs left and right to the Switch, but with really the holiday starting and then the Black Friday deals and the discounts, even the Xbox One really climbed up to within, seriously, like within 10% is what we're hearing to the PS4 in the November NPDs. So it seems like the Xbox, at least with the X and the regular one being discounted down, has helped them as well, because we do know the Xbox One needed a boost, and they did just get PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, we'll talk about soon too, but they haven't had a lot in way of exclusives and mostly relying on those third-party games. Now it's up to Nintendo in January. How are they going to respond? What are they going to do to create that massive momentum? We see Bayonetta, and then we see some other announcements like Payday showing up in 2018, but they really need to, I think, wow a lot of people in January. We know this January press conference is coming, right? We know there's some kind of direct, probably like a half-hour direct, and it's going to be showing us hopefully a bunch of games. If they can get Pokemon out in 2018, that's pretty much it. As long as there's an anticipation of Pokemon, even if it's November, if it released in 2018, they're fine. No issues at all. But I'm curious what other franchises they kind of bring back to help maybe bolster that 2018 lineup. We haven't seen anything from Donkey Kong. Maybe they do something there. We know Kirby and Yoshi will be there, but what else? And what third parties are going to jump on? Is next year when we finally see a Call of Duty? Do we see a Battlefield? I don't know, but I do know we will see Wolfenstein and then some other third parties maybe. Next up, let's talk about Payday 2. It did finally get a release date on the Switch. I know we saw that trailer. They talked about it coming in winter time. Remember, originally it was slated for sometime in 2017, and then they kind of moved to winter time. It's coming out in February, so it is technically still in the winter, I guess, season, right? So it's 2018, but it's technically still in winter. Anyway, it's coming up February 27th in the US and then February 23rd in Europe. So it is coming out a little earlier there. Either way, it's at least coming out soonish, 3 months or so it'll be out. And there's a lot of worry around it because they had gone pretty much radio silent up until that last trailer where they said wintertime. And I'm going to be really curious to see how the optimization, really as these games start to come out, games that are on other platforms, we just saw Yooka-Laylee come over with a pretty good port, to be honest, using Unity. So we're all kind of curious how these games will evolve. I do think some third parties were getting used to the Switch, how it works, how it operates in handheld mode and docked mode. And I do think these games will start to become better optimized and possibly look better with resolution over time. So Payday 2 is going to be another example. How does it look? How does it run? What's the frame rate? And have they started to really improve anything with the Switch when it comes to resolution? Because it seems like a mixed bag with some of these games, doesn't it? You see something like Yooka-Laylee runs great. And then you see something like, I don't know, like WWE 2K18 and it runs terrible. I don't know, but hopefully it's a game that runs well, because I think there will be some people who are at least interested, give it a look. I know the game's been played out a lot on PC, but hey, there's probably people on the Switch who just have a Switch, so this is new to them. Next up, let's talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or PUBG as most people like to say it. It came out yesterday on the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, which is great, right? Well, here's the thing. We had to all know, because it's this weird early access type game that a lot of people don't even consider being done in the first place. Comes out. It does, I believe, still have the tag early access on it on the Xbox One. I think there was a lot of pressure by Microsoft to get this thing out this year during the holiday season, because the game doesn't run well much at all. There are very odd times where the frame rate will just drop seemingly out of nowhere. It's stuttering. Check out Digital Foundry's video on this thing. When you're first entering the arena, seriously guys, like 12 to 15 frames per second when people are loading in and you're parachuting down in your plane. The game is not optimized in the first place. Like on PC, it's not. It seems weird that they would desperately want this on the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, because it doesn't make either of their hardware look good at all. Seriously, if I was Sony, I would consider maybe sitting this one out, because I don't imagine the PS4 is going to do much better, since the X is stronger than either the Pro or the regular PS4, and that thing struggles. So I mean, I assume it'll get better. I do. I don't know how many, I don't know what kind of resources Microsoft is putting towards it to help the frame rate, to help the, I guess, the resolution, but you got to get that frame rate figured out. I mean, we're hoping, we're crossing our fingers for 30 frames per second with a system that's $500 in the X, and that doesn't seem correct at all with something like PUBG that, I mean, it's barely optimized on the PC, but you got to do a little bit of a better job here with the, really, I mean, you got Fortnite across there, right? Fortnite's free and it's on the same system and it runs better and it's the same idea. So you have some competition on there, I will say that, and you don't have to pay money for it and it runs better. So I don't really know. I guess it's just the name. It's the idea that get people to download it, buy it, and play it. But I decided I wasn't going to get it because it didn't look very playable. I'll download Fortnite for free and try that. And our last bit of news, I want to talk about Ni no Kuni 2 real quick because it's been delayed again. Remember, it was really supposed to come out, I believe, in November, and they pushed it to January. Now it's been pushed to March 23rd of 2018. And it doesn't seem that bad because they talk about how they want to introduce new modes of play into this. So they're trying to add more, but I guess the release window is closing in on them, so they want to push it back. Here's my concern. It's been delayed a few times. What's stopping them from delaying it again and again? This is how this usually starts, where we see games that are delayed way... I mean, they showed this thing back in 2015, right? We've been looking at this thing for a while, excited for a while, and we're still waiting, and they keep pushing it back. So my concern is we don't even see it till the end of 2018. What if we don't see that till November of 2018, and this is just another placeholder date because they want to keep adding more stuff? I don't mind if it's buggy and glitchy now and they don't want to release it because of that. It just seems like they want to add more stuff to it. That's stuff you can add through free patches, right? I mean, sure, maybe it would have come out and it would have run terribly and then we would have all been mad, but let's just say it's relatively working relatively well, and they just want to keep adding more stuff to it. Yeah, again, you can just do free DLC. But still, we have to wait a little longer. March 23rd. Fortunately, it looks like there's going to be a lot of stuff to play leading up to that. But from what a lot of people are saying, Yakuza is around that time frame too. So yeah, you know, Kuni 2, you got Yakuza, maybe you got to pick one or the other. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I wish it was coming out in November. I wish we already had it, right? I'd already have it if it was original release date, or even January. I'd be like, all right, a month away. You gotta wait roughly 4 months now. So I don't know, we'll see. And that's it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, guys. If not, give it a dislike. Leave some comments down below about any of the stuff we talked about today. Definitely let me know what you think about Ni no Kuni 2. Are you going to get it? Are you disappointed it keeps getting pushed back? And of course, let me know about PUBG, because I know there's a lot of PUBG fans out there. If you bought it on the Xbox, are you disappointed in its performance, or are you enjoying it because, well, I just like the way the game plays. I like the style of it. I'm very curious if that performance is kind of really taking a toll on your enjoyment of that game. And then, of course, where the Switch is now, 10 million units sold through. What are your expectations for it going into 2018? And at this point, it seems all too likely it's going to pass the Wii U in terms of sales figures in its first year. But where do you think it's going to place near something like the PS4 at this point? Do you think it'll pass the PS4's first year sales and then on to 2018 it'll keep going? I'm very curious what you guys have to say about that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.